This is my famous Marge Simpson hat, and I was going to explain to Marge. I started this video earlier, and my I was done the video, and I hit stop, and it wouldn't stop, and then I flibber-gibbeted around, trying to make the thing stop, to pause, to stop, and then in the end, what I had to do was I had to turn the phone off. So, and then my phone was frozen, and I had to do like a soft reboot on it, and then the video was broken. I had to run a video repair, and it came back, and so I posted that one, and then I did another one, and I had the same problem. It wasn't working right, and I just stopped in the middle of talking, and again I flubber-gibbeted around trying to make the phone work properly. It wouldn't work. I had to soft reboot it, which is, you hold the button and the other button. There's two buttons to hold on the phone, and then it's like a countdown for 5 seconds, and then it reboots the phone. And the video was no good, so I had to run video repair on that one. And then I started to figure out, okay, do I just use the front part of this one that I just fixed and then edit it together with a new ending part, or do I just leave it as like a flubbed up one, like technical difficulties, and then start all over again? And so I've had technical difficulties. As far as Marge Simpsons go, okay, what I was going to talk about, I'm going to try a new video, but I just want to let you know that technical difficulties are temporary. Please do not adjust your stat. My technical difficulties are not so much with the phone. Sometimes it has to do with if I seem like I'm stuttering or misspeaking. But what I've noticed lately is people do misspeak, and it tends to make us all like, what just happened? I meant to speak a certain word, and I said a different word than what I thought I was going to say, and it startles you. It's like, that came out wrong. And I've seen, at least one other person today do this problem. And, then you say, well, he said it was a Freudian slip. And it wasn't really a Freudian slip. It was, sometimes what it is I've got some people who talk to me by telepathy, and sometimes they can speak two words at the same time, superimposed over one another, because they're not using a voice box, they're using telepathy. And sometimes I think that's what's happening is I don't think I can say two words at the same time the way they do it in telepathy. But sometimes some of these words might be a mixture of two words, or it could actually be two words said at the same time, so that you have got two, it's like a fork in the road. You've got a certain word, and it's not an English word, it's a blend of two different words, and you can go off on this direction, or you can go off in this direction because it's two words. Fork in the road word. And you all have telepathy, right? You didn't get that upgrade yet? Well, it doesn't work with everyone. Telepathy works with people that some people I don't have verbal telepathy with. I might have telepathy with them, but it's kind of unconscious telepathy. It's like someone said today to someone else, one person was trying to say, I need this. It's like, like If you had a stroke or something and you can't get the word brain fart or dementia or something, you can't get the word, and the other person says, I know what you're talking about. How did they know? It's intuition, and intuition is a form of telepathy, in my opinion. So if you don't have full-on telepathy with someone, maybe you've got this intuition of what they mean. Getting full-on telepathy, the problem with it is if you don't have any control over the number of people that you're having telepathy with at the same time, you can have too many people talking in your head at the same time and it'll drive you crazy. We call this TMI. Too much information, TMI. And you also can get TMI if your third eye, I mean, this theoretical thing that's up here in your head, is it real? As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to say, anyway, if you've got too much information coming in from your environment, it's just, you just feel like your nerves are overloaded, your brain is overloaded. It's like your senses, it's not coming through your hands, but it might be coming in. It's like another one of those unnamed senses that's taking in information from the environment. And sometimes it's just way too much information and you feel overloaded. Sometimes you don't feel safe. You can feel very tired. You can feel like you can't focus because there's too many things that are grabbing your attention. Sometimes what happens is you've got telepathy with someone and they're sometimes it's just too much to explain it all. But sometimes it happens that, the person you're having telepathy with wants your attention and you're in the middle of talking or doing something else, and you might hear them and get annoyed because you're in the middle of doing something. It's like, little kids that haven't learned social cues. Or parents who haven't noticed that the little child really needs your attention, because little children, sometimes they got to go pee really, really bad. And, you might be saying to a little child, looking down, saying, and you're having a conversation with someone else, and the little child is pulling on your shirt. And you're going, and the little child is really wanting to tell you, I got to go pee so bad, and if I don't go pee right now, I'm going to pee my pants. But you told me, don't interrupt you in the middle of talking, and I need you to take me to the bathroom because I'm 2.5. Anyway, it's very difficult with telepathy, even with one person, but if you've got multiple people that you're in communication with, it can be difficult when they're all talking in words in your head. Because sometimes you just want peace and quiet. Sometimes they do it on purpose to drive you crazy. And then they'll say, no, I wasn't. But you're going, yes, you were. And then they just smile. They say, yeah, well, maybe I was. Sometimes they can time themselves perfectly with your breathing. So you can't have quiet breathing. I'm making a sniffle noise. And sometimes the telepathy will come in so that when I'm breathing in, there's like a noise by telepathy, a telepathy noise or a telepathy talking. There's all kinds of tricks that people can do that are, a lot of people that connect to me by telepathy pretty sure they know telepathy better than I do. Mostly because they just seem... I don't know how I got to start talking about telepathy today. It's also possible that there's telekinesis from other beings, and they can cause my nose to get stuffy. And then sometimes they can cause my sinuses to feel relaxed and good breathing. Sometimes they can turn on an echo in my head. You know, like if you have one of those soundboards, you know, a DJ has a soundboard and there's like some dials on there for like echo or like loudness or equalization, reverb. They've got these abilities with their telepathy, and sometimes it can be TMI, too much information, and it can be just... Now, how do I turn off the telepathy? I don't know how. I don't know how. Is it possible? Probably. It's probably because when maybe, this is just total supposition, maybe when you first get telepathy, you get telepathy with people who already know how to do telepathy, or they have machines that do telepathy boosting. And you're just getting telepathy and it's just coming on for you, and you don't have very much control over it or no control over it. But maybe over time, as telepathy gets turned on for you, some people call these activations. Maybe there's more activations that give you more control. Maybe at some point you get the ability to tune people out by your will, for example. Maybe it gets all... I don't know. Anyway, the whole point is, if you do start getting telepathy, don't be too concerned, because what we're told by extraterrestrials is a lot of the things that we think are supernatural are totally natural. Like telepathy, and perhaps even telekinesis, levitation, teleportation, doing apports, which is pulling something from 500 miles away from there to here. Lots of different of these supernatural things. And not only are we told they're supernatural, we're also told don't do them because they're work of the devil. Right? We've heard these things, like that's a sign of the devil if you do these kinds of things. And I was even told, probably it was a video of Dr. David R. Hawkins about, Teacher of Enlightenment, which is advancing your consciousness. In one of his videos, he said, refuse these superpowers because they're a spiritual trap. Nevertheless, he might not be right. He might be right, he might not be right. I don't know, because he never really explained it other than saying it's a trap. How do you refuse them? Well, I think he really meant don't let your ego get involved with these things because it inflates your ego. And then what happens? Well, the whole point of getting to enlightenment is letting go of your ego, because your ego is all about your personal desires, controlling outcomes, controlling other people, and it's at loggerheads with higher consciousness, according to not only Dr. Hawkins, but I would say quite a few other teachers, Eckhart Tolle, for example. But putting it all together, what else? Well, it's just that documentation of, for example, Yogananda, in his book, Autobiography of a Yogi, he talks about different people who have got these spiritual superpowers. And there are stories I read about Ramana, and What do we know? Well, some of the stories that Yogananda tells, people have these superpowers, and they are indeed using them for egoic purposes. Somebody was using it to steal things. It was using power to like remove something from someone and then bring it through an astral being who had the ability to do an apport. And then there was somebody else who could move perfumes or move smells from one place to another. What's the point of it all? Well, isn't it nice that I can bring in a nice perfume from a rose bush to here? But, in the end, it's a lot of shortcuts, you know. The whole point of it is, Ramana is known to be a bona fide Satguru. And the story that I read was that he was bilocating. In other words, his body was in Arunchala, India, and someone else saw him. Perhaps it was in a vision. Maybe it wasn't actually, in physical reality. There is also talk of the Masters and Life and Teachings of Masters of the Far East, a book by Baird T. Spalding, where the Masters could do supernatural things. Nevertheless, if you remember in Harry Potter, they did supernatural things. And what happened? Well, they got into a nasty war. I mean, it's bad enough when people are carrying guns and knives, or, they're really good at martial arts. Bad enough to have people walking around like that. But when you add in supernatural superpowers, I don't know. The mother of all battles. What else do we want to talk about when it comes to these spiritual superpowers? Jedi mind tricks. So there was in the first Star Wars movie, which is now titled Episode 4. Someone says it's a New Hope. Obi-Wan Kenobi used Jedi mind tricks to tell some stormtroopers that these aren't the droids you're looking for. So he had the ability to do mind tricks, mind control over other people. There's also the idea, and I've seen these write-ups on the internet, where there's technologies designed to do these kind of mind tricks, not by spiritual purposes, but by technological purposes. One was using quantum computers to outthink somebody and to insert, just play with people's brains. Lots of different ways have been suggested that it could be done with. You could look it up on the internet. All of these things are about controlling others. Why do you want to control others? Because you're a control freak and you're trying to control outcomes. Why do we say that's a bad thing? It's because you, in your opinion, think that this is better than that. And what's the truth? You don't know, because it's usually based upon your ego. In other words, I could do a love spell for you, and some people will sell you a love spell. And what are you doing? You are karmically entangling yourself with someone who perhaps is not meant to be your lover. It's bad karma for you, and it's destroying someone else's future. Because if they're busy entangled with you because of the love spell, maybe they're not going to do something and they were supposed to do for. Anyway, it's screwing them up. It's screwing them up. It's like putting them in a straitjacket when they're supposed to be free. So any of these spells are bad karma. Bad karma from you, and it's damaging to other things. What else do we want to talk about? We want to talk about can you take drugs to give you spiritual superpowers? The answer is it could be true. It could be true because I'll give you the example of the great beast, Aleister Crowley, who was known as a magician, and he was known to take lots of drugs. Is it a good or a bad thing? Dr. Crowley came to visit me at one time. He wasn't in the flesh, but his spirit came to visit me. He didn't talk to me about his magicianship. He sat and had tea. Not physical tea, whatever he was in spiritual form, in spirit form, he took on this is called another spiritual superpower. It's called claircognizance. It's when something is in, for example, a spirit form, and you know about it. It's not physical with your physical eye, but you're not seeing, you might have a little bit of imagery, but mostly it's knowing, like intuition, but stronger than intuition. Because it's knowing, very strong knowing. And Dr. Crowley was having tea while he was accompanying me as I was driving around. Why are we calling him Dr. Crowley? Because it's an honorific. Anyone who is such a great magician is, somebody you would call doctor. If you're at university, they don't call people at university professor. I think in Walt Disney movies in the 1950s, they called experts in their field professor. But when I went to university, anybody who was the professor was called Dr. So-and-so, presumably because they had a PhD in whatever they were doing, which is a doctor of philosophy of whatever subject, which is very strange because why would you say you've got a doctor of philosophy in engineering? A philosophy of engineering? Doctor of philosophy in political science. I can see how being a doctor of philosophy, period, if you're teaching philosophy. What's the philosophy of engineering? Why don't they just call it Doctor of Engineering? Why do they have to throw the philosophy in it? Anyways, I think I might have had one or two teachers at university level who were not called doctor. No, maybe I didn't. But there was somebody who taught there who didn't have apparently a PhD and was teaching. I mean, teaching assistants, usually they're like graduate students. They don't have a PhD, so what do you call them? Usually what they'll say, my name is, if the person's name is Marilyn Chambers, they would say, just call me Marilyn. Anyways, Dr. Crowley likes to be called Dr. Crowley. And is it Crowley or Crowley? He says it depends upon if you're English or American. He doesn't mind either way. His full name's Alistair, but quite often we call him Uncle Alec around here. Rather than Uncle Alice, as in Alistair Alec, we call him. And we were talking about, could you take drugs to get a magician's powers? The answer is, I think so. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? And I'm trying to leave that question because it calls for a judgment call, and I'm trying to tell you that's an ego. And usually ego likes things to be easy, likes money. Anyways, the whole point of taking these drugs is it a trick? The problem with taking drugs to get spiritual superpowers is you become a drug addict, and that was what they used to say about Dr. Crowley, that he was addicted to drugs. So can you get spiritual superpowers without drugs? Yogananda would say, I think he would say yes, through meditation and doing Kriya Yoga. Could be some people are born with these abilities because in past lives they were doing a lot of these kind of things. What else could be? Well, if you look at the 8-circuit model of your brain, you can look it up, 8-circuit model. This one says that various drugs open up new circuits in your brain. Is it true? Well, I think the people that came up with the 8-circuit model came up with the model because they were taking various different kinds of drugs. So, getting back to should you refuse the spiritual superpowers? Should you refuse to use technological means to do what we consider supernatural things? Well, that one's pretty easy in some cases. I mean, in physics labs, they're talking about teleporting atoms. Does that sound like... That sounds like pure research. Is it wise to... That's usually the best question. Is it wise to research teleporting atoms? Doesn't sound dangerous, but what are the repercussions? Who's the wise person, ethics board, that's going to be able to talk about it? I mean, because it's supposed to be developing into a Star Trek-like transporter device. Maybe they want to do research on tractor beams, anything from Star Trek. What are the problems? Well, in Star Trek, they showed there was some technologies that were being used to try and affect people's minds. In one colony, it was a prison colony. That's one of those words that where you're flubbergibbeting it. Where they were using a machine to try and make criminals not criminals, but it turned out that this machine could also be used as a machine to wipe your mind or to, it's just like some of these things that are supposed to be good for people, like electroconvulsive shock treatment, and other kinds of treatments that are given to people. For example, lithium. What's the problem with them? Well, you're playing God with other people, and even if you have a medical degree, you are pretty much an amateur. Oh, I've done so many of these things. I tell these people who say they're doctors of medicine and prescribing things like lithium or anything at all, you should leave the medical field. In fact, if you don't leave the medical field, I'm going to suggest that you buy a lot of malpractice insurance. And if you're an insurance company, I'm going to suggest you drop all coverage of all doctors for anything that they do. Where am I going with this? The simple fact is, this is a very invasive thing that doctors do. I mean, maybe you'll need somebody to remove your appendix, or you've got a broken leg that needs setting. The simple answer is your instincts are you should help someone, and you went to a school to help people. And what's happened? Pretty much you become a drug pusher for big pharmaceutical companies, and a lot of doctors are doing surgery that they shouldn't be doing because they don't know what the hell they're doing. So you end up with people who had surgery, and the surgery didn't help them, it hurt them. You have a lot of doctors that rush you through on an appointment, what's wrong with you? And then they want to get to the next person, so they just rush right through. Did they have a really good idea of what was wrong with you? No. Did they send a sample of something to the lab? No. They just wrote you a prescription. Okay, I'm going to change gears and talk to you about, this is the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to talk to you about Floyd. Who's Floyd? Floyd is a cockatoo that I watched on YouTube yesterday. Very cute bird. He was getting help having a bath by his companion, a human companion. And Floyd apparently was not really fond of showers, but he apparently tended to get dirty, and his companion felt that he needed to have a bit of a wet wash. The companion said Floyd doesn't really enjoy getting wet, but other birds do, and she felt like Floyd needed baths. It was being a kept animal, in other words, a pet. Was Floyd consulted about being a pet? Highly doubtful. Puppy mills, manufacturing dogs. Breeders breeding various animals. What are we learning? We're pretty much desiring for people to let go of the idea of zoos, sea worlds, some animals, we're told that they are so domesticated they must have human assistance for things like giving birth. For example, domesticated cows. Some people say some animals need a vet. Oh, it's Christopher Isherwood here, and I want to talk to you a little bit about getting involved with less is more, in that we also love our animals. And we love members of our family as much, sometimes more, sometimes less, than our pets. What is the situation regarding pets? Where am I coming from? Well, I'm just consulting. It's our culture to believe that it's proper to take animals from the wild and turn them into pets, to wean little dogs from their mother and then give them to a human person to be their new mother. We've been taught this from, I don't know, could be thousands of years, but does that mean it's right? Why are we talking about this? Because it's a question. Just because your culture says do this, do that, doesn't mean it's right. The horrible practice of circumcision is done by parents to the little boys or the little girls. Why? Because of their culture, their religion? Because they think it looks better? Does that make it right? A little infant cannot give consent. And what you do to their body, they have to live with for life. Perhaps you believe in modern dentistry and you let the dentist go crazy drilling and pulling teeth on a child. Maybe you like to give fluoride treatments to your child. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Why? Well, when that child grows up, maybe they didn't want their teeth pulled. Maybe they didn't like the idea that the dentist drilled so much that they put in all kinds of artificial cavity fillers, tooth extractions, root canals. Maybe the child really is upset that you played with their genitals. What about when you do this to dogs? When you crop their tail or you cut their ears because you want them to look a certain way? What about braces for children? What's the problem with braces for children? Why does the child have malformations of their teeth? I don't know, but I'm going to get it fixed for them. You didn't answer my question. Why is the child got a malformed jaw where the teeth don't fit together? Why do you have to have your wisdom teeth pulled because they're screwing up your other teeth? What's the real answer? The real answer is we're deformed. You are humans. Why do we have wisdom teeth that need to be pulled? We're going to talk about control freaks. Control freaks are these people that decide to do things for other humans. We're taught in our society that parents should decide what's best for their child unless the state feels like it's incorrect. So certain religions don't want blood transfusion. The doctor says the child needs a blood transfusion, and then this is always being used on television. Go to the judge, and then the judge has to decide what's going to happen with the child. What's the whole point of this? The whole point of this is who says that the judge knows what's best? Who says that these laws that are passed by some legislature are good? The whole system stinks. And you're going to say, well, what about the child that's not old enough to decide what they need, what they want? The answer is we're going to have to gather up more time. because the answer is always we're doing things because this is the way it always was done. We're brainwashed. We're culture sensitized. And we don't like it. We don't like it at all. We don't like other authority figures telling us what to do. And in the end, what do you do with the children who's got malformed jaws? And if they've got some other problem, you're deformed. Is any human not deformed? I think every human in some way has got some kind of something wrong with them. Why? Because we live in a place of not much going on except constant battling. Constant battling. We're stealing each other's energies. We're basically energy vampires. How do we know? Well, people have heard of this energy vampiring. It's written about by... Anyway, the whole point of it is if we're stealing each other's energies, then those energies that were supposed to be the human energy field for children or other people is being distorted, damaged, which means that their physicality is not appearing correct to us. And people say, what's genetic damage? Somebody else say, well, they got an accident, didn't heal right, or it would never heal. The true answer is their human energy field is not working correctly. And that is why we have every health problem there is. If you have a perfect energy field, you will have a perfectly appearing anything. In other words, if my energy field is perfect, my dog will be perfect. No. Why did I say it that way? Because pretty much if my energy field is going well and the dog's is going well, we're fine. But not usually. Sometimes people are sick and then the dog will take, they say the dog will take on some of the problems of the owner. What's really happening? Energy vampirism. The person is stealing energy from the dog. You're saying, oh, the dog loves you, so it's giving you love. No, you are being an energy vampire. How do we know this? Because the energy vampires that keep vamping me are hurting me. They're making me tired. They're giving me disease. Who are the energy vampire? This whole place is full of energy vampires. What do you do with energy vampires? Well, first you got to learn about it then. Secondly, you got to go around and figure out who's vamping who and why and when. And why do we have a lack of energy in general? If there wasn't a lack of energy, then there would be no need to vamp. And then it gets down to what are we using these energies for? Besides forming our physicality, we're using them for God knows what. To override our natural inclinations to. In other words, everything that is making you do something that you wouldn't normally do if you had total freedom is damaging you, and it's being done by stealing your energy and or using energy against you. Who's doing this? Who's not? That is my talk for today. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe and share. I'm sorry it's 45 minutes, but I usually try and stop at 15 minutes, but if I go over, then I might continue to go on and 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 on. I try and stop at 15 minutes so that I can post a video on Instagram where I'm limited to 15 minutes. Why? Just because there's viewers that see me there and not on here. As you can see, I can talk and talk and talk about interesting things and absolutely trivial things. E is for evil. I did a lecture on this a long time ago. The E is for evil lecture. And what does it mean? It means that, do you blame the letter E for being the first letter in the word evil? Is E evil because it is one of the letters that make up the word evil? Or do you give the letter E special grace because it's last letter in the word live? Live, one way, and backwards it's evil. Same 4 letters, just a different backwards and forwards. So what are we talking about the letter E for? Well, it's very difficult to give you the whole lecture in one little blip. And there's many ways of looking at it. One way might be four letters. E is the first letter in the word evil. Four people. If 4 people, in your opinion, together are doing something evil. The first person we're going to call E, person E. Maybe they're a secretary. They answer phone. They type up memoranda. They greet guests at the office. They make coffee. And they're paid by this group to do that work. Person V, person I, and person L are really doing the evil work. Behind the door at this office, that's where those 3 people do. They're evil. But there's 4 people working in this office. Is the secretary part of what's going on behind the door? You might say, well, if she knows about it, what if she doesn't know what's going on back there? But to, you who came to this office and you were greeted by the receptionist and given coffee, and you sat there, waited on the couch, and then the secretary said, they'll see you now, and you get up and you hit the, whatever, the door opens, you go back there, something happens to you, and then later on you go to the police and you say, something horrible, evil happened to me there, and there were 4 people there, and they participated. Well, did the secretary know what happened in the back? Could be, could be not. Nevertheless, there were 4 people there, and you've said that the 4 of them together were evil. What are the police to think? Because they're going to have to investigate. The whole point of it is, it may be that you're holding the secretary guilty for what happened behind the door, and maybe she didn't know nothing about it. And that's sort of how I want to go about it, to just start to drop in a reasonable doubt. They might call that in a trial. Reasonable doubt that she knew what was going on and she agreed to it going on. Well, I've gone on for 50 minutes talking about various things. I'm not going to shift gears anymore, other than to remind you I'm still unable to get a haircut because of the COVID-19. I'm told it's now the first week of June 2020. I'm told that in our jurisdiction, we're unlikely to see a barber until September. They're going to keep them closed. In the meantime, the new Floyd situation, Minnesota Floyd, Minneapolis Floyd, has become, is it bigger news now? My point is the mass media is complicit in doing psychological operations on all of the people who are on planet Earth. These are known more likely as psyops. They used to be used by the military to get into the heads of enemy soldiers. Now these psyops are being used to manipulate humans, not only through the media, but through their governments for the purposes of Nevertheless, I cannot get a haircut, and I am not too pleased about it. I'm still hearing people saying, stay safe, and they're very much in concern for this so-called virus. And in my lengthy years on the planet, I've come to the very strong conclusion that viruses are a lie, and they are a nasty lie. They are being used to manipulate people, and the whole society is so screwed up that it's going to be very difficult to convince a lot of people that things like viruses don't exist and that they are being used to control you, because people know that they've got sick, and they've been told since they were little that viruses are one way that people get sick. What's the truth? It's another talk. This hat is you, and it's like, don't, this thing, it's like crossed out. You don't see me. I don't see Bear, who is a personality who is annoying me right now. He is an affront to anything decent. And he wants me to use the E as for evil to say, it's not my fault that I'm irritating you. You're just got a natural ability to be irritated by other personalities that are getting into your field so that you can hear them. Is it true? The answer is all the time. When I feel like I can't keep people away from me, I feel like I'm being raped. Am I being raped? Is it for the good of something else? Is someone else running the show? Where's my free will? I don't have any free will. Is being told you have free will a lie? Yes, you don't have free will. Well, I have the will to get up off the couch. You got to see my earlier lecture from today about control freak. What about if I just feel horrible about someone and I don't want to be near them? The answer is always going to be it's a deep, deep rabbit hole. And the answer is always going to be you don't really know what's going on because you can't see me. And who am I? I'm the Wizard of Oz, who hides behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz movie. And I might not even be the one who is being the wizard. Nevertheless, you can't see who it is that's pulling all the strings on everything that's going on here. And some people who are sorry, saying that they're awake, part of the Great Awakening, Make America Great Again, MAGA, whatever that other thing is that they say where one goes, the rest of them go. If you think you're awake because you've been following all these conspiracy theories, nope, you've only just scratched the surface, and you're probably wrong. Because, some people might have called this, well, it's tin hat conspiracy theory, and you're going to go, no, I've dug into it so much that it's the truth. Well, I'm sorry, but it's like layers of an onion. You've got to the layer where everything looks like it's a conspiracy because, the 1% of 1% owns everything. Well, some other people will say, well, you haven't got the part where there's extraterrestrials that are really running the show. And then you haven't got to the point where who's running the extraterrestrials, and if they're Draco reptilians, it may well be that they're being run by artificial intelligence implants. Are they independent implants, artificial, or are they being run by something else? Where is the ultimate controller of everything that's going on? Was there one controller, or are there multiple controllers? Who is conducting this whole orchestra? Because everything that's going on planet Earth is pretty much like conducting an orchestra, good, bad, and indifferent. Is there a God that is doing it? Are there gods, plural, that are doing it? Is there source that is doing it? Is it not really any gods whatsoever? I'm an atheist or something. You can't see who the Wizard of Oz is and whether they're really doing something or they're just play acting like, the actor who was playing the Wizard of Oz in the movie. In other words, they seem to be doing something, sure looks like they're doing something, but maybe it's so well orchestrated, it's like lip syncing. That's a really good analogy. Lip syncing? It's when, a musician has been in the studio making their music and, they sing in the studio, it gets recorded. But then when they're up on stage, they're not actually singing. They're just saying the words without singing, lip syncing. And that could be what's happening with the Wizard of Oz, who you think is doing something to you. It may well be that they are consciously lip syncing, or it may be that the Grand Poobah, maybe the architect of the Matrix movies, is really the one, and I don't think he was even doing it, it was his computers that were running the Matrix, who is really doing something to you that you're blaming someone for. The answer is whoever it is, you can't see them. So if we go back to Floyd in Minneapolis, Some people say um, conspiracy theories. I've heard. Um, I saw a picture that they said from the side view that you didn't see. Somehow they got this picture. They showed there was like an extra arm in there when someone had their knee on Floyd's head or neck or something. There was an extra hand in there that proves that this was faked. It was a psyop in order to create a race war in America. Is it true? I'm going to think so. Yeah, because of the license plate. It said police on the police car license plate. And, anywhere else I've been, police cars have letters and numbers. It doesn't say police. So if you were, it gets really weird, It gets really weird. I went and looked it up, all pictures of Minneapolis, St. Paul police cars that were on Google or Duck or whatever it's called, search engines. And all I could find was a lot of police cars where they weren't showing you the license plate. It looked to me like they scrubbed the internet. In other words, they took out all pictures of Minneapolis police cars with license plates. Why was this done? Some people say because they wanted to create a race war so that they can justify sending out the military to have martial law. Still, it's dumb because it gives us a clue that this is a fake thing. Why not just, in the movies, they'll just get a license plate made that looks like a normal license plate, LA 12345. That's not good. Maybe. But the whole thing is they'll make it look real. And why just put police on there? To cue some of us that this is fake. And then for other ones who aren't too swift to create mass protests. Where do you want to go from there? Stories about, somehow huge piles of bricks just appearing downtown areas, just ready for the rioters to pick up. And then other stories about weird people that aren't real cops that are, and then flash mobbing. Remember flash mobs? It was a fad. I don't know, maybe it was 10 or 12 years ago. A bunch of people would go into a shopping mall, pretend to be shoppers, and then all of a sudden they'd start having a dance. They'd put on a portable music player, and they'd all do a dance in front of the crowd in the mall. Flash mobbing. And is that what this is? It's all crisis actors. And then some people say, well, regardless of whatever this is happening, they were trying to create a race war, but what happened was we all united behind this, and we've become more united than ever. So it backfired, but maybe it was supposed to go this way. Who was the one who was trying to figure out how it was all going to go? Was it a bunch of people that were controlling the situation? Was it, in the end, a million possibilities, and see me, the one who is doing it all. Some people say this is the Great Awakening. It's a spiritual awakening where you're learning to be sovereign and independent of everyone else. Other people say the Great Awakening is just to re-elect Donald Trump. I saw a picture today. I don't know if it's real or not. How do you know anything is real on TV? You can't. Hollywood is really good at making... I saw the tsunami, in Japan and the tsunami in Thailand. I looked at it, and then I looked at what's possible with CGI, computer animation. And I came to the conclusion, my best guess is both of those were faked. To put fear into you, or just because they could. But even with your eyes, what can you trust? There's talk that there's going to be Project Blue Beam, which is going to be a faked alien invasion. In the 1930s, there was a War of the Worlds. It was a radio drama, but they never said that it was fiction. And some people believed that the Martians were invading. But Project Bluebeam, you can see some of these things. They're holograms. You know, there's like a whale that will come out of the floor in a school gymnasium because it's projected there. And people are saying, well, they're going to project into the sky alien spacecraft and say there's an alien invasion. Because they said, well, I mean, if you believed in coronavirus and you believed in the Floyd psyop, then the next thing that's going to happen later this year is a faked alien invasion. And then somebody said, then we're going to have Plandemic 2, because instead of saying it's a pandemic of coronavirus, it's planned, a planned epidemic in order to control you. Pandemic, and they going to have a second wave. And then somebody went out in a limb and said, and then Yellowstone is going to explode. You know, it's a great big hot spring area, also known as a caldera. And it was on TV some years ago about what would happen if Yellowstone caldera blew up and it's the end of the world or something. Or maybe an asteroid is going to come in. Because in January this year, we had Australian fires and California fires that might have been started by directed energy weapons in order to get people to vacate the railroads, and smart people might live in smart farms for FEMA camps. My people are telling me that it's been an hour and 6 minutes, so I'm going to continue to talk in another video. Thank you for watching. I'm very sorry it's so long-winded, but some people go for an hour and a half. Don't forget to comment.